Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. Due to YouTube's changing quote-unquote community standards, I created a channel called Grumpy Old Fart over on Rumble, a free speech alternative to YouTube. You can see all of my stuff over there, including my political and social commentary, as well as my current events videos. The links to my YouTube and Rumble channels, as well as links to let you order my books, are in the description of this video. If you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. Now, on with the video. Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing an advanced Dungeons & Dragons advice video on choose your weapon. Okay, I did a video a while back wherein I talked about which weapon to choose and the reasoning thereof. Go ahead and go find that video. It's buried in another video, so it might take a bit to find it. But I tried to talk about the different reasonings to take certain different weapons and things like that. I may have actually done more than one, as I recall, but at any rate, obviously, I'm gonna do another one because this one specifically is about the weapons. Whenever somebody's new in gaming and they're well, what weapon do I take? They invariably, the smart ones, the ones who are smart power players immediately go for the weapons that do the most damage, which is fine. You want to be able to do the damage. That's the whole point of combat, doing damage to the other guy. But there's a role-playing aspect to it as well. And I'm going to try to touch on both of them here. So here we go. Obviously, you need to choose weapons which fit your character. A barbarian from a Stone Age tribe probably wouldn't know how to use a sword. And a fighter who was a conscript used in the front rank of shock troops would not use a crossbow or a lance. Lances are specifically designed for use from horseback, so, chances are if you're a foot soldier stuck up in the front lines, yeah, they probably gave you a sharp stick or a club. I'm just saying. But that being said, there are other concerns within those areas. Obviously, you want to do as much damage as possible, but the maximum damage potential is not the only consideration. When you're choosing something to do damage, here's something to consider, and a lot of people don't consider this. A battle axe does 1 to 8, 1 to 8. 1 to 8 for small and man-sized, 1 to 8 for large, which is cool. But a Volge does 2 to 8, 2 to 8. Personally, I would go for the Volge. While the maximum damage of each weapon is identical, the minimum damage of the Volge is twice that of the battle axe. So if you roll crappy, which I hate to say it, but most gamers tend to do, if you roll crappy, you're still going to do more damage with a Volge than with a battle axe. You see what I'm saying? Your upside potential is the same. Your downside potential is better. So, if you peruse the weapon charts, there are other melee weapons with similar differences. A Falchion Fork versus a Bilgisarm, for example, and a Bec de Corbin versus a Lucerne Hammer, for example. Those are two others where the idea there is 2 small dice versus 1 die. I'd go with the 2 smaller dice. 2d4 versus a d8. 2d6s versus a d12. You see what I'm saying? 2d6s versus a d10. A lot of people see that big d10 and they're like, yeah, I want that one. Well, this one does a 2d6, so I want the d10, that has been said to me, I'm just saying. Another consideration is weapon size. A halfling probably wouldn't use a halberd, a battle axe, or a 2-handed sword. These weapons are just physically too big for short people to use. It's not racism or, sizeism or whatever ism you want to call it. It's just basic physics. By the same token, and I did a video about that. I forget which video it was, but I did a video where the guy was running a pixie, and he was using a Lucerne hammer that he was throwing, and it was returning to him like Thor's hammer. And the dungeon master allowed him to do it, so you can't say no. But Yeah, there's something blatantly wrong with a guy 4 or 5 inches tall throwing a pole arm and it coming back. I'm just saying. By the same token, longer weapons give a better reach. I'm a huge fan of spears and pole arms because they do more damage and enemies with shorter weapons are at a disadvantage. If the dwarves and the other short characters are up front fighting, hacking and slashing with their axes and what all, and you're a human right behind them with a spear, you can reach over them and stab. You see what I'm saying? That is a valid tactic. It's been done many times in Dungeons and Dragons. I want to say a friend of mine wrote an article on it for a magazine, but I don't recall. Anyway, my point is, spears and pole arms like that do better damage and they give you greater range. Now, spears by themselves are a personal favorite of mine because they can be missile weapons or melee weapons. They're very versatile. Plus, if you throw a spear at a wizard and it lodges in his chest, he's got to take the time to pull that out before he can start casting. At least if the dungeon master takes into account pain and suffering. Another consideration is space. Heavily wooded areas limit missile weapons. If somebody's hiding in or running through the trees and it's a fairly heavily wooded area, yeah, shooting them with a missile weapon would be severely problematic. Also, if you're in an underground setting or in a room with a 5-foot high ceiling, this is going to limit the use of pole arms and other large weapons. They're going to have to pull something smaller like a dagger or a sword. Space is a consideration when you're dealing with big weapons. Now, in my opinion, a variety of weapons for your character would be needed. Now, if you can only afford one weapon, make sure it's usable in virtually any area. But, in my opinion, here's what you need for your character. You need a primary melee weapon that does good damage. You need a backup weapon. A smaller weapon that does reasonable damage that you can, if in case something happens to your primary weapon or your primary weapon is too big to use in a specific area or it's for whatever reason you can't use it, you got to have something else to use, okay? So you got to have a primary melee weapon and a backup melee weapon. And third, you have to have a quality missile weapon, a bow, sling, something. This should cover most, if not all, contingencies. And this is not me showing you how to be a power player. This is me saying this is common sense. I'm just saying. Hope this finds everybody well. You folks have a good day now. God bless one and all. Clarissa Lowe, a historian from the future. Delmore Kane, a Civil War veteran turned outlaw. This oddball pairing faces a conspiracy of epic proportions spanning the centuries. If you like action and adventure westerns with a splash of science fiction and fantasy, check out my book series Drifters and their ongoing adventures.